are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, we finished up HBO's Hard Knocks. How you doing today, sir?
I'm a little bit concerned. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm ready to hit the panic button. Watching Dak go 1 for 6 with only one touchdown when targeting Aiden Diggs was a little bit disappointing. And I'm not one to read into preseason stats.
He threw one underhanded. I mean, jeez.
Well, now I understand why Aiden keeps confusing him with Patrick Mahomes, I guess. So that explains that.
I was going to just ask you the best scene or the biggest winners from this entire series, but I think we know the answer, right?
I mean,
Aiden Diggs.
Aiden Diggs is number one superstar from HBO's Hard Knocks this season. I think there's no doubt about it. Get this kid some kind of, comprehensive package deal, like a movie deal or whatever. He's ready to go. Just pop him into something. He's a star.
I just want to say, Aiden just calling Dak Prescott all the time, like having to say both first and last name every single time. It's nice to meet you, Dak Prescott.
Let me ask you this, Dak Prescott. How are you
ready
doing?
For the game, Dak Prescott?
Believe in yourself, Dad. That's still my favorite. Like him yelling, "Believe in yourself" to his dad is so awesome.
It's
so awesome.
It's so good. All right, so before we get into talking about this episode, let's just talk about the season as a whole. How did you think it was? These 5 episodes. Were you disappointed? Did you like the season? What are your thoughts?
I have to it's tough because you almost have to kind of separate yourself as a Cowboys fan from a fan of watching Hard Knocks, right? Because the things that
differently,
because they're not only just different, but they're in conflict with each other, right? Because the things that make a good Hard Knocks kind of are the things that would make a bad team, right?
Correct.
Like the conflict, the angst, sometimes there's always the kind of what we saw, like the down roster folks, and they're struggling to make the team. Mm-hmm. That stuff is still fascinating. I mean, the faces change, but the storyline's basically the same. So it's a little stale in some sense because it's the same thing that you see over and over again. But we waited up until this episode to kind of, and by we, I mean like the viewers of the show, not the Cowboys fans, because Cowboys fans know the answers. The people that are watching the show, like that aren't Cowboys fans, they've waited up until now to see, exactly what the result of all this is for these guys. And so this was really the only truly interesting episode of television. I think the things, like, as a TV fan, there wasn't a ton that was great to watch. There was moments that were funny here. We mentioned Aiden Diggs, but and then as a Cowboys fan, I think it was great because honestly, there wasn't much there. And I think that to me is reassuring that this is a stable team that's ready to go win football games. And that's not always the same thing as being good, good watching television.
I do think this, of all the seasons of Hard Knocks, I think I've seen just about all of them. This is probably on the lower end. Like, there just wasn't a lot of drama. And I don't know if it's because the Cowboys didn't really have a lot during camp and preseason outside of Dak's quote unquote shoulder injury, right? Like, what else are they really going to harp on? Like, for example, we saw 2 years ago with the Raiders, like the Antonio Brown thing was going on, right? He was practicing, he wasn't practicing. That basically carried the show for 3 or 4 weeks. It was Gruden coming back to the Raiders, but Cowboys just didn't really have anything like that to kind of harp on, right?
Yeah, and again, like that's the good news for the Cowboys fans that are watching this. And even like the shoulder thing, like we've been living through it these last few weeks, and we've been talking about how it's kind of a overblown story in the sense that he's going to be fine and it's going to be okay. But and it almost felt like the Hard Knock situation was driving it even further, and they latched right onto it, to their credit, because they were like it. They had to. I mean, he's the main star, and also it's just like they had to have something, you know, and that's even Zeke. It was like he was a lovable clown. He wasn't the, you know, dangerous, explosive, you know, who knows what he's going to do next in a bad way.
It's not even
guy.
like a TO situation where it's me, me, look at me. It's not anything like that, right?
No, and that's the thing is that you know, you kind of have these perceptions of like, oh, this could be salacious with all these guys that have kind of these, you know, reputations of being different and odd, but it's like DeMarcus Lawrence is kind of just a funny, you know, Buddha. Like, you know, Buddha type that just sits there and dispenses wisdom. Zeke is just a clown who has a lot of fun. Dak is like a spotless leader. Like, I mean, seriously, every time I get to know more about Dak Prescott or get more insight, and I know he's on camera, and I know that he knows that he's on camera. I know that. But every time you get a chance to see more insight into who Dak is, you're more impressed with who he is. Right. Like, as a leader, as a person, as a football player.
Well, I would also talk about like some of the other guys they focused on, like Amari Cooper. Like we kind of know who Amari Cooper is. He's a quiet, he's a very thoughtful person that doesn't make it great for TV, right? Even Diggs, like I think they really tried to play out this Trevon Diggs Amari Cooper rivalry, and they're both like, okay, you got me, good job.
Yeah, we're pretty good. Yeah, okay. And it's like, and then it's like even CeeDee, it's like what the most salacious thing about him is that he likes candles, you know. And then
the candle he was burning, by the way. I know that one.
I did. Wow, that's the fact you priced that on site is pretty impressive. Yeah. I think it's funny that like I didn't even think about this. The fact that, you know, he is notorious as he, you know, introduced us in this first kind of exposure of Hard Knocks, you know, notoriously a big Syntophile, if that's a word I just made up. Yep. And he and because of COVID, he lost his sense of smell for a week. I didn't even think about that.
It really bothered him. You could tell that was the thing. He woke up in the morning and it really bothered him that he couldn't smell his candles. It's just like that's the big storyline of Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah, exactly. That it's like, these guys are kind of football nerds to a large degree. They're not like the wild, crazy party animal types as much. They're like, they love playing football and doing their own thing. And it's just kind of interesting that was a lot of what we got from the superstars, as opposed to kind of, you know, I don't know. Like I said, salacious is the word that I keep thinking that they want.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, Landon. It's the Cowboys of the last couple of years have kind of built their team this way, right? Like they don't really have any knuckleheads. They have one kind of clown in it, Zeke, but it's a lot of guys who are very quiet, kind of keep to themselves. You know, their entire receiving core is that way, right? That's the quietest receiving core I think I've ever seen in my life, right? It's just kind of
understated receiving core ever, I think. Seriously, they're just, all three of them are just kind of the most egoless wide receivers I've ever seen.
I mean, who's the loudest that has the biggest ego of the three? I mean, probably Amari when it comes to chess.
Maybe loudest Gallup, just because he's laughing like a goofball, like not because he's like audacious or anything. It's the no drama team. Like it's funny because they have this outside reputation of being, you know, dramatic and having a lot of, you know, malcontents and bad folks, but
it hasn't been like that for a while.
Look around; they would have shown up by now at some point. Trust me,
where they're at, right?
Yeah, they would. They trust me. They would thrust them in front of the camera if they had the opportunity, if they were there. But there just wasn't there.
Right. They don't have. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about BetOnline. It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. All you have to do is head to the website or use your mobile device and sign up today to receive a 100% welcome bonus. All you have to do is use that promo code LOCKEDON. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, from football, basketball, baseball, boxing, to all of your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait and take advantage now of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Landon, I want to get into some of this episode, but for me, the biggest winner maybe of the entire series, and we're getting back to being a serious thing, is Azura Kamara. I think you and I were both shocked when he made the team. And actually, I remember when we were talking about it, like we thought this is somebody who was going to be on the roster for a little bit and probably eventually released and go to the practice squad, right? Up until tonight, I still thought that. after watching Mike McCarthy and Will McClay and some of these guys talk about Azur, it's pretty clear that's not the case. Like they think he's a guy that's going to stick for a while. Was that your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like they definitely valued him higher than what we anticipated, and I think a lot of it is that they were commenting a lot about his special teams prowess. That it's kind of tougher at times for us to get good angles on and that sort of thing, and so it's kind of tough just based on some of the names that we're seeing on some of these units, whether or not it was gonna. And it turns out, I guess, a lot of that ended up being a little bit more of an indicator than we thought.
Luke Gifford made it, right?
Yeah, Gifford and Kamara. I mean, Kamara making it was really shocking.
Very shocking.
But I don't disagree with the idea that he has a lot of upside. I do think that there is something when you watch him in practice, he does pop out. It's just a matter of and maybe that's the thing that like we didn't rate enough, right? Like, is that he has a skill set specifically to be a pass rusher, and those are valued in the NFL. So when you show that ability, and really the only weakness you have is kind of just lacking strength, that's something that they can help you with. Obviously, that's something that they can coach up, that being in a system will help you develop. So I kudos to him. Congrats to him. He's an incredible story, obviously. But I also think that, he's got a lot of development he's going to need to do before he's going to be, part of a rotation on defense. I think I obviously anticipate him to be a heavy player in special teams when he's active, because that's clearly where they're impressed. I don't know. I probably not. I imagined him to being. I mean, I didn't think he was going to make the team. So I imagine him being an inactive.
Chauncey Golston's not going to be active, I don't think. Right? I mean, Golston only has a few practices under his belt, right?
You say that, but I mean, he was they're listing him as a limited participant. I think in
no, he was a full participant the last 2 days.
Was he? Oh, I thought they had to update that because he was a
no. I saw it from the official report today. He was a full participant the last 2 days. So
well, I mean, look, I think that is there any reason they couldn't make both Kamara and Golson game day inactives for at least the first few weeks? I mean,
yeah, I think that's possible. I just I don't think
Golson's I know it's active. 2 defensive ends on the game day inactive that you're only allowed what is it, 6 something? So it's like it's not a lot of people. So it's I think it's it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they do. But I just think that if Kamara is on the active roster, that he's going to be playing heavily special teams snaps mostly.
I agree. All right, let's get to some other things from this episode. Mike McCarthy pretty clearly loves Ben DiNucci, right? Like,
I don't think that's surprising.
He said he never wants to give up on a player in their second year, especially at the quarterback. He likes to carry quarterbacks. That's not really all that shocking. The big quote out of there that people are going to run away with is that Mike McCarthy said, DiNucci has some things that you can't find in free agency. I don't know what those things are, but apparently Mike McCarthy values him. Thoughts on Ben DiNucci?
To defend Mike a little bit here, I think that Ben has some. He does, he has some. People make fun of his sidearm delivery, but what I read that as is I see a guy who can throw from multiple platforms, and that is a useful tool. I think that he has some athleticism to him, combined with some throwing ability that is, it's an interesting combination. The problem is that if he doesn't develop, then I think his ceiling is like where Garrett Gilbert is at, right? Like he's not able to get through. I mean, there's a difference between being able to get through all your progressions and then being able to act on them in time. And I think that's what we're seeing with Gilbert, is that Gilbert is going through his progressions. It's not like he's necessarily slow to go through his progressions. I think it's more that he has a hard time deciding, just pulling the trigger and realizing, oh, it's time to go. It's time to either get rid of the ball or not. I think that's what DiNucci is too, is it's like he spends all this time either being too concerned that he's going to make a mistake or overcompensating the other way. He's really struggling to find like a level of urgency in his play that is, comfortable, safe, but also aggressive enough to make the plays that are necessary to be a professional quarterback.
I just don't care too much. Like, he's going to be on the practice squad. I doubt he ever makes an active roster again unless something terrible happens in front of him, right?
Somebody's got to be the practice squad quarterback.
Right.
It's like who cares? Like,
I did find it interesting that when Will McClay was talking to all the guys that were going to be cut, that were going to go on waivers and they wanted to bring back, Garrett Gilbert wasn't there. Like, pretty clearly the Cowboys decided, I mean, we're going with Cooper Rush, and Garrett Gilbert's not in our plans at all. I just found that interesting that they really didn't seem like they cared if Garrett Gilbert came back to the practice squad or not. That was interesting.
They probably weren't going to carry two quarterbacks in the practice squad, I guess, and once they made the decision that it was Cooper Rush as the backup, there really wasn't a place for Gilbert, to be on the team. So I am with friend of the show, KD Drummond, though. I really wish they had shown the Rondell Carter cutscene, because I want to know what happened such that he didn't come back to the team, because that's interesting.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting one. All right, a couple more. Our guy Isaac got cut. Jaquan Hardy got cut. There was a really interesting moment where Skip Pete was talking to Hardy just one-on-one after Hardy was released. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, you can tell Pete's just like, he's a teacher, right? And
Pete's a great guy.
He's a great guy. But the thing I took away is, like, it was pretty clear that Skip thought he was like a really good kid and he wanted to work with him. Like he said, listen, you listen well, you do what you're asked. I think those are the kind of guys you want on your practice squad, right? Like, guys that aren't going to be a problem to have in meetings. They're reliable. They listen. That's the exact type of practice squad running back you want. So I just thought that was a nice little moment.
Absolutely. I thought it was great. I mean, he's just kind of, being honest with the guy, being, talking to a person man-to-man about what his opportunity is, how to best take advantage of that opportunity, and showing a real willingness to, like, hey, you're worth my time. You listen, you can develop, come back and let's get back to work. And I thought Jaquan Hardy's demeanor during that whole situation was very fascinating to me.
Yes.
It was very kind of even. And then at the end, really took it all in and understood exactly what his opportunity was. And by the end of it, seemed very excited about the future, which I think is a very positive look. You're a long shot. This whole show is about the long shots on this team. You have to make your own opportunities. And if that means having a positive mental attitude when in these situations, of being able to have the fortitude to get through this, like, that's what you have to do to be able to be the rare exception of these guys that makes it on an NFL roster eventually after being on the practice squad.
One more little quick moment that I wanted to add in. When Mike McCarthy and Isaac were talking, like, as they cut him, that was just cool. Isaac saying how much he appreciated the Cowboys and all that kind of stuff. And as they're getting up to leave, Mike McCarthy says, well, we'll have to see if you clear waivers first, but we'll see you Thursday. Basically, like,
well, that was clear waivers. wasn't that Alcaron who suggested, well, I hope, I hope I clear waivers. Yeah. I may get picked. I hope I get picked up by another team. And we're like,
McCarthy's like, yeah, we'll see you Thursday.
Yeah, I'll see you Thursday. Yeah, that was funny. I thought that was
like, they know the guys that are potentially going to get claimed and which ones aren't. Poor Isaac. I thought that was really good. That was really fun. I want to talk more about some of our favorite moments from this season. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Run Your Pool. Football season is back. Let's make the most of it with a better way to create your custom pool at runyourpool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. Run Your Pool makes it ridiculously easy to run a football pool with friends, family, or office mates. They offer dozens of formats, including Survivor, Pick'em, Squares, Confidence Pools, 30-30, and so much more. Run Your Pool hosts formats for NFL and college football with one-week games, full season, playoffs, or whatever you want. Unlike other fantasy sports platforms, Run Your Pool has options and settings to make it your own. You can even brand it with your pool with a local business, a bar, or a restaurant. Reconnect with friends and join nearly 2 million football fans to make every game action-packed this season. To check them out today and get a $10 off rebate, all you have to do is go to runyourpool.com/lockedon or use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Anywhere, everywhere in the world, Run Your Pool helps friends and colleagues compete. The NFL season starts on September 9th with your Dallas Cowboys. Start today at runyourpool.com/lockedon. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon. Also, quickly want to tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, one more thing from this episode, Landon. Jerry Jones's view for practice. I mean, unbelievable, right? Is that just not the best?
That's why you spend whatever $1 billion for that thing, is to get that view and to get to watch practice every single day. That was pretty impressive.
That was pretty good.
I did like that. Look, you knew that they were going to end with some kind of Jerry.
Of course,
it begin and end with Jerry, right? And I like that little thing that did. Who knows how much of that is BS? But I honestly believe that Jerry kind of views the world like that. Is that it doesn't really matter what you did before. It's like what you're doing now.
You don't get to be that successful with any other attitude, I don't think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's always been. I think that's always been the kind of misconception about him, or at least people don't outside the building don't really believe, is that he doesn't care about winning, and that he cares about making money. He does make a lot of money, and he does, the team makes a lot more money than maybe they should, frankly, when reflecting their record at times, right?
Right.
But I think that Jerry cares very, very deeply about winning and about winning football games specifically.
Did you like his little 1-minute rant on Dak Prescott about how he fell to the fourth round? Like they have stats to quantify everything else, speed, size, but they don't have it to the leadership in the heart. I thought that was really interesting. I still want to ask Jerry how he fell to the fourth round. Like, why did you guys let him drop that far? But that's for another day.
I mean, like, I think you saw it. Like, again, I've already kind of gushed, but when he was giving that speech to the guys, like right before they broke practice, before cut down day, and he was talking about how even if you weren't here on Thursday, that you were a part of this, that you helped us build this, and that all of our success is your success as well. And I mean, like, who does
leader,
that?
man.
Who comes up with that stuff? I mean, I understand he's on Hard Knocks, and maybe he knew that, and maybe he came up with that, but I don't think so.
It doesn't come across as corny. Like it does so many other people.
It sounds like something he would just say, because that's the kind of stuff that he just comes up with all the time, and he's just like, I hate to sound like corny and inspiring, but for a dude to just, like, after practice, like, come up after watching what he does on the practice field, and then for him to come up and say stuff like that, like, it's meaningful. I can see why guys want to run through walls for him.
All right, so to finish out Hard Knocks, let's talk about our favorite moment from the season. I'll give you some of my favorites. It's Jerry Jones putting extra salt on the already salty McGriddle. That's up there.
That's pretty amazing.
The 3-minute drone shot, which is should win some Emmys or whatever awards.
They're up for.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Aiden Diggs, just in general, every second. I mean, he's just awesome. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, the drone shot obviously was just, like, I remember there's a point where, like, it's just quiet and you're just watching it, and I just remember sitting there and my eyes were just saucers, because it's just so fascinating. I think getting little things, just getting to know CeeDee Lamb a little bit more, and just how funny he is, like how odd in such a good way, and that was interesting. I like, look, we cover the team really close, so for me, like, I have personal interest in learning a little bit about these guys as people. So just even if it was stupid stuff, like, it was fascinating to see, like, how these guys are behind the scenes. So there's tons of that, and there's lots of little things, but also just, again, I think my favorite thing was watching Dak interact with the team when it felt like he forgot about the cameras. Like when he was cursing out Garrett Gilbert, when he was making bets, that first time he was making bets with Trayvon Diggs, like the moments like that where you see competitive Dak that you only kind of hear whispers about from other people, when you actually see that kind of show up, that was really awesome.
That one's good, but Bones Fossil talking about his vasectomy is way better.
Man, I mean, we've heard lots of legend about that as well. So I guess that was a really fun one.
Yeah, that's going to be my takeaway. Bones Fossil is hilarious. How do you like him talking about running as a reward, not a punishment?
I thought that was fascinating, actually.
I don't buy it at all. But okay,
it's an interesting. Well, look, it's an interesting take because I mean, listen, to be an NFL player, you have to be into running. Like you got you just have to because that's all you're doing all day. So.
Okay, well, he didn't sell me, but he did a good job trying at least. But
he gave it his all. He gave it his all. He was trying to mix it up. It's the end of training camp. We're all really bored. He's got to mix it up. He did his best, and good for Bones.
Oh, I should end with this. How about watching film on that giant TV inside of the Star? Like, how cool would that be?
Cowboys life, man. Cowboys life.
Cowboys life. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to support us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you next time.